welcome Hays Webb, our district attorney, to our podcast today. And we just want Hays to sort of talk about what he'd like to talk about. We want to get a little bit about your background. You and I both spent some time in Maryland.
Yes.
So you're from Maryland?
Yep.
And went to Auburn?
Went to Auburn, yep.
And bless your heart. And where'd you go to law school?
I went to law school here at
Okay.
University of Alabama.
Okay. Yeah. So, and is this your second term?
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You ran unopposed last time.
The second time, yes. That's the better way to be.
That's the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, just tell us a little bit about you're going to have some people over from Stillman today at your office, and they're going to ask you to talk about race.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
And just talk about some of the things you like to do outside of the district attorney's office, and comment a little bit about your assessment of where we are, where Tuscaloosa is with law enforcement and safety.
Man, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That's a lot of stuff. So, all right, let's take it in the order.
Okay.
I grew up in Maryland, yes, and which probably helped shape some of my thoughts about things, including what you're talking about right now, race.
Mm-hmm.
And I was born in West Virginia, which is probably also very important because I spent the first 2 years of my life there. My dad's family is from there, and so as I was growing up, I always considered myself a mountaineer.
Okay.
And if you could consider yourself, I guess I've always been politically aware, not from being a politician, but from being, I guess this is a truth about me, is our belief in our system and in our nation. And so I think that was always very meaningful to me. And as I looked at, West Virginia, which, like I said, I feel like that state imprinted on me. And and whether I was right or wrong, still as a child, I knew, that the West Virginia state motto, Montani Liberi, mountaineers are always free. And so it resonated with me at an age at which, most people are thinking about other things. But it was very meaningful to me. And my dad's family, like I said, was from there. And so it just, I think that in my brain, I considered myself having maybe sort of traditional and very patriotic values. And it was...
What part of West Virginia?
My grandparents lived in Fairmont.
Okay.
My dad's grandparents were from the Huntington area, which is along the Ohio River. Farmers and stuff there. But so that's very meaningful to me is that. And so I grew up in Maryland, and again, strangely enough, I didn't know anything else in reality. But I felt a disconnect. In Maryland, went in Marines when I was 17, so I lived there for 15 years. I do think, though, when we talk about the race issue in particular, the way that I grew up, I do think I lived in a good place in Maryland where we really, one of my very best friends growing up was a black, child then, man now, named Petrie Spate. And I remember, going to his house, spending the night and that sort of stuff. And I remember his father had been a proud Navy veteran. And interestingly, he'd go on scout trips with us and stuff and had taught me how to make handcuffs out of rope. And so it's just, so I think that helped me to see everybody the same and through very, I would say, merit-based eyes, and believing that everybody has the ability to succeed, right? Not everybody has the same opportunities from birth, the same environment, that sort of thing, but same ability to succeed, right? And for some people, getting there, obviously, some people have more hurdles, but I like to believe that everybody has the opportunity or the ability within themselves to succeed, right? And do they maximize their potential? I mean, I'm guessing you're not rich. I know I'm not rich. I'm guessing you're not rich. And so, what does it mean to succeed, right? But so I think that kind of shaped that. you may want to ask me another question, but my next thing was going to be to talk about, the office, law enforcement, that sort of thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
And that's, I know you had Ron Abernathy on, our sheriff, within the past month or so. He's my buddy. And
He's a great guy.
we have a good time
He's a character.
cutting up with one another. But it's really, to me, meaningful because I didn't know him before the 2016 election. Not well. I'd been criminal defense lawyer for 19 years at that time, and had some vague familiarity, kind of, but we certainly weren't pals. But he and our other local law enforcement leaders, it's been very easy to form good relationships with them. And I think that a lot of times in the community, and I'm not speaking to our community, I guess I'm speaking in the national community, with all of this sort of, as people seek to undermine and to destroy, right, instead of to find similarities and good things to talk about and the good things that are happening and the things that we can be proud of. From behind the scenes, I have seen him, in particular, he's a very good friend. And the only reason I'm able to form these relationships with him and the others is because I've seen them behind closed doors, and I know what motivates them, and I know that the things that are being said publicly are the same things that are said privately.
Yeah, he is an outstanding guy. Our company has targeted sheriff's departments as a market, and so we actually were at Blount County last week.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, the differences in facilities between we just don't understand what we have here in Tuscaloosa. I mean, Tuscaloosa, if you're going to get thrown in jail, you want to get thrown in jail here.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you're going to do a crime somewhere else.
Right.
Because the
Ron's
facilities,
toys.
Ron's got all kinds of stuff out there to catch you.
Very.
But there's a big difference in where you live in the state with regard to safety and sheriff's departments, and we are very, very blessed to live in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, there's no question. And, it just shows the professionalism over there also. People trying to do the right thing the right way. You all well know our jail chief, Lloyd Baker, who is absolutely, he's a great public servant, and he is a great man, and those things really go hand in hand with one another.
He's just a good guy.
Yeah, and a great sense of humor.
He's so funny.
Great sense of humor. He likes to poke on people. And, he takes it good naturedly when you poke back.
He's good. Yeah. But it's indicative again of the sheriff's leadership when he puts people like that in leadership positions. And again, it's something like I feel myself a defender of the system, and it's so easy to see so much good. And from my perspective, and I hate that a lot of people seem to derive whether it's joy, power, from the destruction of the system or attacking. So
the system, the sheriff's department it's the most innovative sheriff's department that I've seen. What we do for them is we give them an emotional intelligence test, and which helps them to if someone's got an emotional intelligence problem, you certainly don't want them out there on the street,
right?
Because that is what gets them in trouble. So they're screening people and coaching them up and stuff like that. And I don't know if too many people doing that. Ron's ahead of his time.
Yeah, it's important and I think it's very difficult. I can't imagine the adrenaline coursing through people's veins when they've been in a chase and their lives, other citizens' lives in danger, and now you've got the guy like, okay, sir, you're under arrest. That's a difficult thing to go from full on this fight flight mode, everything enhanced, to now I have to instantly manage those chemicals in my body, right? And set aside my ego and just, okay, we've got you. You're under arrest. So
I think that the ordinary citizen doesn't quite understand what those what those people deal with on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
My best friend when we lived in Chattanooga was a Chattanooga police officer, and I used to ride with him at night. This is back when you could do stuff like
Yeah.
that, and I was shocked at how much they have to fight. I mean, physically fight.
Yeah.
And I thought, gosh, that wasn't
Yeah.
what I perceived to
Yeah.
happen. I thought everybody was, you tell them to go get in the car. Didn't work that way.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't
Yeah.
think so, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't think so, unfortunately.
But I think if every citizen had an opportunity to get out and witness these men and women in action, I
Yeah.
think we'd have a much, much higher appreciation. And also, like, they're folks, they just want to go home to their family, they want to support their family,
Right.
and like that. So, what are some of the things that you like to do when you're not at the VA's office? DA's.
Yeah, Dan knows I like to shoot.
Quite the marksman.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
I like to shoot. I like to hunt. I like to be outdoors. I'm a big mountain biker, and I've taken off my sling for this for this episode, but I'll be in it for another. I'll be limited in what I can do. I've got the sling till Thursday, then another 8 weeks till I can mountain bike again.
Okay.
And we've got some really great parks around here, Sokol Park, Lake Lurleen, where both are within 10 to 12 minutes of my house. And so I've got, I don't know how many thousands of miles riding there, and I've ridden at different places around the southeast, some out west. Yeah, that's what I like to do, for sure. Spend time with my kids. Yeah, I enjoy them very much. 2 adult children, and give me a lot of joy for sure. Yeah, I've got more time for them than they've got for me, though.
There you go.
But yeah,
Understand that, yeah.
Yeah, they are. But those are some things. I'm learning to kayak.
There you go. You know how to swim, don't you?
I do, and it's funny because I started probably 3 or 4 years ago. I bought some kayaks just for flat water, and I was like, heck, if I'm going to be out here paddling around on flat water, like I need to know, if I'm going to say I'm a kayaker, I need to know how to kayak. So then it's like the rolling and stuff, and I'm still it's a few years now. I've had lessons and stuff, but trying to perfect my roll, because from that, then I'll be more comfortable in the other, the whitewater and stuff. But it's funny because my mindset, I guess I'm a lot of times very cautious. And so I'm trying to get all the fundamental pieces aligned before I go into the water. But the teachers say, well, normally people don't want to learn anything. They just want to go get in the whitewater, and just let it.
Maybe not a good idea, right?
I'm adventurous within reason, I guess is what I'd say.
I learned early on that if you're going to be having sports around water, you need to know how to swim.
Absolutely.
That's what they call an oxygen-deprived environment.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I went. It was actually, I do just love the outdoors. I went with buddies that are, they are whitewater rafting guides up in the Ocoee in Tennessee, just outside Chattanooga.
Yeah.
And I went with a group of them to the Rogue River in Oregon back in October. We spent a week there, and it was fantastic. Wow. So I like to do stuff like that. And when I hunt, I like to hunt, in the woods on my feet if I can, and walking, particularly in the mountains and stuff if I can do that.
Wow.
So, yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah.
Talk to us about the Unity group a little bit. I one of my favorite memories is early on, and we give you a hard time about it all the time, but when Hays shoved a book across the table and said, "This is BS," we say you were trying to get thrown out of the group.
I don't know if y'all remember. I actually said after all the hand-holding kumbaya from the other, I think 3 there, you two being those two of the 3 or 4 others. And I was like, I don't know if y'all want to hear from me because it seems like I may be kind of out of step with the others.
You're the one that got the group going, actually.
And, I think I think I'm a believer in truth, and everybody today talks about, well, your truth, my truth, whatever. Yeah. And I understand people can have different perspectives, but there aren't different truths.
That's right.
And I hate I think I started this talking about our nation and my belief in, and not in its perfection, but in its ideals. And the ideals apply equally to everyone.
Yeah.
And I think, you have on the one hand terrible history of, clearly it was systemic racism. There's no question. It was systemic, right? It was endorsed by the system.
Yeah. Right.
And but today, I simply don't believe that it exists. I'm not saying racism doesn't exist. I'm saying systemic racism doesn't exist. But I think that some people derive power from encouraging others to believe that no, you can't, because you're being kept down and are destroyers instead of builders.
Yeah.
And so with that mindset, I think at the Unity Group, I've at times been pretty vocal about my thoughts.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, the things that I've learned also from, and they are, our brothers in there. Everybody really is. It's a deep and meaningful bond.
It absolutely is.
That's been formed. And so when I say brothers, it really is. I think every single person in there feel like I could, and each of us can rely on if the chips are down, for sure. And but obviously, and I think, heck, it's probably frequently about 50% white and 50% black.
Yeah.
And the things that I've learned from some of the black men in there, our brothers, they are among some of the smartest people I know.
Yeah.
Anderson Walker, the wisdom he has shared, and all of them have shared things that I've learned from, and it helps me, I think, with my perspective a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And also it helps me to be more receptive to, and I don't want to say everything's a side, my side versus their side, right?
Yeah.
Because I really don't feel like that. But to the extent that we came in with differing thoughts, largely, right? One of the greatest things I've taken away from it is the ability to see that people can be, and I'm using these terms broadly again, on the other side of some of these issues and still be operating in good faith.
Yeah. Right.
And not only operating in good faith, but again, with such just deep wisdom and intellect. It's really, I love those guys.
We talk about a lot, but I don't think sometimes we understand the depth of the phrase that relationships ruin racism.
Yeah.
There's no shortcuts to that.
Right.
You have a lot of people that think there's a shortcut, and they'll have some type of program that they'll put people through. But does it sound like a good idea to take a group of people and beat them down and criticize them and say, you're the problem, everything that's your problem, and then say, oh, by the way, I want you to, be my pal.
Right.
I'm sorry, you're not going to be my pal when you sit there and you talk about, how terrible my race is.
Right.
And then you want me to be your pal. That's not going to happen.
Right.
Now I'm going to put on a happy face because, especially if my employer is forcing me to do this, I'm going to act like I'm happy, but I'm not happy.
Right.
And if somebody tells you they're happy and you've been criticizing them for the last 45 minutes, they're lying to you.
Yeah, they're probably not. Yeah.
You said something one time that I wish you'd speak to, if you're comfortable speaking to it. You talked about in your faith journey how you're an evidence-based person. It really struck me that when you said that you had seen evidence of the movement of the Holy Spirit and so forth in the group member. Did I interpret that correctly?
Oh yeah.
Can you speak to that?
Yes. That's actually, it is one of the most meaningful things to me about the group, and that's I think when we first met over here, this was the first couple, 2 or 3.
The cafe
we had over here. We started here. Yeah, before we went over. We did.
Okay.
We did.
Yeah.
We started 4 of us in here.
That's right.
And as we went around and shared our stories, if you will, I was like, geez, y'all are good Christians. I'm really not. But I'd like to be. Yeah. And I think that so much of it does come. I think it is a lot easier to be a believer in anything if that's the way you've been raised, particularly. And my parents would have said they were Christians. At the same time, there was not any sense of faith, right? And not that I picked up on, at least. And it's difficult, and it's difficult. The entire religious experience for somebody who is more of an outsider as opposed to an insider. Mm-hmm. It's difficult to say prayers in front of people. It's difficult to acknowledge those things. And it is, interestingly, here's this word I'm going to throw out at work. They all get squeamish when I say it, but it is really, it is an intimacy, right? There's a bonding, there's a vulnerability when you talk about things that you're uncomfortable talking about. Mm-hmm. And for a lot of us, in the religion, for me, I know that that's been one of those things that it's difficult, and it could be with my kids or with anybody else, difficult for me to share about. And also something that I feel like it's almost like a burden in a sense, right? Because gosh, how easy, if I had just grown up knowing and believing inherently, gosh, that makes it really easy, right? Mm-hmm. When instead my brain, everything I read, and I told you all, this is what you're talking about, Dan, when I read the mere fact, I'm not seeking to minimize this, but the mere fact that something's written in a book, including in the Bible, doesn't mean, okay, my brain shuts down and I don't have questions about it, right? Mm-hmm. I just do. And it's not, I'm not looking to attack or to undermine. I just know I can be reading and wanting to believe it as it is without challenge. But in the back of my brain, there's this, what about, right? It's almost like a feeling. It's a thought. I can't help that the question comes into my brain. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the raw material you're working with here. Mm-hmm. And then over the years, we've been in the group together to see those men, all of them, the black men and the white men, and to see how we have come together and heard and interacted, and sometimes interacted pretty, I think it's fair to say, heatedly at times, right? Which how do we get to truth, right? Iron sharpens iron, and here we are in the crucible, and forging, and instead of those tough moments being used to create division and to separate, as is so frequently done in the world, what we have is we truly, the point of the spear, it's all of us together refining. And what is the tip of the spear? We're growing closer and closer, right? Yeah. That's all of us.
I remember some of the go ahead.
Oh, well, and I'm sorry but it's to your point in particular, that's happened. And as I've seen that to me is something that instead of me reading in a book and then, okay, I don't have any questions about it, instead I've seen it. It's played out for me. And the response to it is so inconsistent with and so in contrast with what you find as typical human nature. Yeah. Because instead of retreating, it brings us closer together. And that was the thing you asked me about, Dan, is that's the evidence to me of God's hand at play with our group, and it helps then to boost my faith in fact. That's So I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's perfect. It was interesting whenever we went over some hot topics like critical race theory and things like that. And go around the room. It was interesting. Critical race theory is a good one. It got tremendous negative comments from all the white guys because we said this is an anti-white program and you badmouth us. And our black brothers were sort of shocked to hear us say that, because in their mind it was nothing more than to acknowledge black history.
Right.
Two different perspectives, and we agreed with them and they agreed with us, but we did not agree with the word. And so we threw out the term Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, and to come find out, most of the folks in the room have the same thought processes and ideas, and it's these hot names. And so Joe even said, well, just stop using those names.
Right, right. Yep. You don't have to use words to define someone else. We can just talk about what are our values, in fact.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So why don't we finish by you telling us what you're going to tell these Stillman kids here this afternoon? So.
Well, yep. So Gordon Govins, professor, and in our small group.
Yep.
Incredibly bright man.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, he's been a great addition to our small group for sure.
Sure has.
Just another good voice in there, and he has a really good way, I think, always of taking a lot of kind of chaos and refining it down to a question. Mm-hmm. You do a good job of that also, John, as you've led us through these years like herding cats. He'll take a lot of, about a specific issue, he'll take a lot of just people's thoughts and talking about, and he'll say, okay, so what's the question? This is what we're dealing with, which is very nice. So he's bringing his class, and he has, we're going to talk constitutional law, criminal justice, and he has told me that he's asking them to ask me very tough questions.
Yeah.
And one of the things I'm going to talk about in particular is the grand jury process, which is very easy because both our office has had great success. We have unquestionably, it is the only completely current grand jury in the state, and it's not because we have more resources or fewer cases. It's because of the way that we've found efficiencies, okay? But so not only does it allow me to talk about the office and the work of the people there, that makes me very proud. In addition, within our system of laws in the nation, our grand jury process is a check by the people against the government. And so there are no felony cases that are prosecuted, essentially none, that are prosecuted without a body of 18 people having been convened at random, who, having heard some evidence, determine that there's probable cause to move forward with this charge. So that will be what we start with. I will share with them about that, and then look forward to engaging with them, any questions that they have about the criminal justice system, but including particular, any sort of social justice questions or race-based questions that I think that he's asked them to ask me.
Yeah.
And how good, and if it's his class, I believe that they'll be operating in good faith, right? Not seeking gotcha moments or things like that. And I can learn, they can learn, and it should be a really good experience.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
Well, Hays, we really appreciate it.
Maybe thanks for having me.
Sometime.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's great. Yeah, that's good. That's not right. That's good.
It's kind of fitting. Today is Super Tuesday, right? So
yes.
I've been out and voted. I've done
good
my
for
civic
you.
duty so
that's
far.
Great.
But, if you enjoyed this content, and we hope you did, I can't imagine how you couldn't have enjoyed this content. Please like and subscribe to our channel, and you can even ring that bell, and we'll alert you anytime there's new content. And we just want to thank Hays Webb again for coming in and sharing his story. And,
all you do for our community.
Thanks, buddy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
That was
Well,
a
appreciate y'all.
fantastic job. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, and he's a heck of a marksman, too.
Yeah, you don't want him shooting at you.
Until our next episode, thanks for joining. See you next time.
Well, we like to walk.